We want to quickly touch on one of our top stories this afternoon. A research and policy think tank, CAS Ghana, is proposing the passage of the Draft Competition and Fair Trade Practices Bill of 2019, which it says would better reform the telecom market. Now, CAS Ghana is warning the move by the National Communications Authority to enforce provisions of the Electronic Communications Act 2008 and the National Telecommunications Policy would rather hurt the industry. Director of CAS Ghana, Aboagye-Wiafe, has joined me in the studio to discuss this proposal. So I know that CAS is opposed to the NCA's enforcement of the Electronic Communications Act. Tell me why.
We are not necessarily opposed to the NCA orders, but what we are saying is that NCA should tread cautiously concerning the measures that it wants to take, because as a regulator, MTN did not become dominant to the 75% market share overnight. The threshold in the Electronic Communications Act is 40% or so. Between 40% and 75% is for 35%. So where the regulator during those periods that MTN was kind of increasing its share of the market. And we must also see that this is a liberalized sector, and MTN has invested a lot of resources to get to this place, whereas other players might have also not been able to match with this level of investment. And so if you want to take any action just to bring equity in the market, we must make sure that it does not become counterproductive, because we must ask ourselves, why didn't those other players did not invest? So when you do so, you are going to bring about inefficiency in the sector, and then they could also be riding on MTN's level of investment. And so we need to be very cautious so that we don't create a system that will kind of disincentivize MTN in its future investment, and also other sectors. So
while we tread cautiously, you're proposing the Competition and Fair Trade Practices Bill. And so I'm wondering, how does that differ from the Electronic Communications Act 2008? So
Electronic Communications Act seeks to regulate the electronic and communication sector. The Competition and Fair Trade Practices Bill regulates the whole market, telecom, healthcare, everything, even the media industry. The competition law seeks to create enabling a level playing field for all business to operate. So this is issue of more of economics than law, and it looks at efficiency, and also it checks about the issue of abuse of dominant position, monopolies and cartels. So clearly, the NCA Act doesn't have enough provisions in its act to resolve these issues efficiently. In most countries in the world, including South Africa, Gambia, Kenya, and Zambia, these matters go to the competition regulator. In the US, they call it antitrust department of the Justice Department.
Yes.
And so we need to have competition law, because if you don't have competition law in our country, what it means is that the dominant players can be abusing the smaller ones. And I'm not saying that MTN is abusing anybody in the market, but we must also look beyond the telecom sector. But let me also say one thing, that look, the telecom sector has a downstream and upstream sector. And so what we want to say is that the regulator needs to do a complete market study of the whole sectors, both the up and the down, and look at where do we have market concentration, and where there's a market concentration, what are the reforms that needs to come. The reform should not hurt whoever has the major share, but you bring what you remove the entry barriers to allow new entrants to come in, so that you can come out, bring prices to marginal cost.
Yeah, and we just have a minute, I'm told. So what are the ramifications if the NCA goes ahead with that move to enforce its new legislation?
So it could discourage investment in the sector. If tomorrow Ghana was to have a 5G network, I'm very sure that MTN will be the one that could afford to rope in 5G. Because of what the government, the NCA is doing, MTN will say, look, we are going to stop investing in the market. And then the other firms are also not investing. So eventually, our internet speed will go to 1 kilobyte per hour, and then you cannot even download an email within 1 hour. So MTN must be guided by efficiency, and openness and also collaboration with the sector players so that it can be a win-win for both consumers and also the market players.
All right. Thank you so much. Great you could pass to the studio. You have been watching The Marketplace. My name is Darryl Kwa. Thanks for watching. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business.